Conversations with Iris. Here's your host, my loving wife, Iris.
Hello, beautiful souls. Hola, mi gente bonita. I hope all finds you well, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Iris. This little podcast that could has truly become a space of reflection, curiosity, storytelling, and just that connection aspect of it. I love interviewing people of all walks of life and telling their story. This is the space where we sit with humans who aren't afraid to explore the messy, the beautiful, the complicated layers of life. I know life throws you so many bricks and challenges and things that we just want to talk about it. Why not? To help each other get better and to make awareness out there bold be a statement. It is what we do on this podcast. So let me tell you guys something. Today's conversation is going to be about identity, healing, and stories we tell ourselves in order to survive and sometimes to finally just come home. So, mi gente bella, let me tell you about our wonderful guest today. She is truly a beautiful storyteller who lives where nature, psychology, and that suspense just all like blend and interact all together. She is a wonderful author of the upcoming novel Seeking Sasha. Ooh, I love that. That's like fear. Seeking Sasha. Let me snap my fingers on that one. I love that. It's going to be a razor sharp, emotionally layered story about a woman living off the grid, haunted by her past, and running from one's truth that she can't really escape herself. Oh my goodness. But her short stories have appeared in journals and collections, and she earned national recognition for her writing and just bringing such a unique stories and lens as a wildlife biologist and literal judge. And she's just a woman deeply attuned to that tension between survivor, but also adding a little bit of that softness in there, which makes it very like amazing at the same time. And I love how she writes characters into forests, gardens, and quiet spaces where secret grows, entities are fractured, but then healing is patiently waiting for the person. So, mi gente, I am so excited to welcome this brilliant mind and beautiful voice. Bienvenidos to Conversations with Iris, Laura Frost. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. That was such a wonderful introduction. And thank you for having me here.
I told you I will give you the best introduction you deserve because you deserve. Oh my goodness. I am so
Thank you.
glad to have you here. Very, very glad. Laura, I am excited to have you here. And I have to ask if your writing style were a place today where it would be like, what would it be like your writing style right now? Will it be like a quiet forest trail, a stormy street, a cozy kitchen, or a cabinet secret with walls? What would that writing style be like right now at this moment?
It's, I always carry a lot of tension into my writing. And so my writing right now is similar to writing I've done in the past. And, it does incorporate those quiet spaces, but also incorporates a lot of energy. And I really like to find the spaces between the layers of stories to pull in that tension and just really have an emotional impact.
Mm, mm. You talking about maybe some tension. How about some suspension? They're like suspense. What do you
Oh,
think about
yes.
that? Oh, I love me some suspense. Let me tell you, there's something about picking up a book, and I'm all about psychological thrillers, by the way. I love just finding out at the end who was the killer, or oh my God, did she really do that?
Yeah.
So I love the tension aspect of it because it keeps you on your toes. So I'm excited about that because now our listeners are getting a glimpse of who is Laura Frost, right?
Mhm.
So that's very exciting. Can you go ahead and break down the layers for us? Is who is Laura Frost today, and unpack those layers and tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into writing these creative stories.
Oh, that's such a big question because it has been such a journey, and there are a lot of layers to who I am. Um, I I have a family. I have three wonderful teenagers who keep me extremely busy with all their activities and all the wonderful things they do. Um, and but before I had this awesome family, I I have a degree in wildlife biology, and I worked in that field for a while.
Oh.
And and then life changes as it does, and my husband and I started moving a lot for his job, and so I had to start finding work in whatever community we found ourselves in, because we were moving every couple of years. And so I was a substitute teacher, I was a crown prosecutor's aide, I was a lifeguard and a first aid instructor, um, and all sorts of other jobs. I worked at a hotel. And so all of these pieces of who I've been along the way sort of brought me to who I am today. And yeah, today I bake a lot. Although I am not working as a wildlife biologist, I have a beautiful backyard forest, and I like to bird watch, and I tap my maple trees and make maple syrup. Um, so yeah, I wear a lot of different hats, and it was quite an incredible journey to bring me to where I am today.
And I love that you are a wildlife biologist. You are the
Hmm.
first biologist that has came to my show, and I love biology, girl. This I'm a true nerdy here. Like I'm all science and learning all these different aspects about medicine, and that's amazing. That is
Hmm.
amazing. I feel like you have spent years just, you know, and like amplifying all these different characters into life. Like you
Hmm.
played a lot of many roles, and I feel like you spend a lot of your years dropping characters into nature. You mentioned tension, survival, and all these different emotional landscapes that you create. Um,
Hmm.
let me ask you, when did storytelling first call you, though? When was that first time you picked up that pen? And when did you realize that writing wasn't just something you did, but something you needed in your life?
Yeah, I've been writing my entire life. It's something I've always really enjoyed, and something that people always told me I had quite a bit of talent for. And so I always thought I wanted to write a book, but I never knew what kind of book I would write, what genre, what it would be about. But then about 10 years ago, my husband was working as a police officer at the time, and he was involved in a pretty scary situation where things could have turned out terribly. Thank goodness they didn't. But, once everything was cleared and everybody was safe, the way that my subconscious dealt with the situation was my mind created a character, and I named her Karina. And, I gave her a family similar to mine. And in her story, her husband did not make it out of the situation. And she had to navigate life as a widow with a young family. She had to make decisions about, is she going to move back home where her family is? Is she going to stay in her current community where her kids have a good school? And then as the months and years progressed, how do her relationships change? And so her story was building in my head, and it was all sort of happening without me, really consciously, deciding on making this
Mhm.
story. It just, her story
Right.
was rolling through my mind. And it got to the point where it was just becoming quite overwhelming. And I needed to relieve the pressure in my mind of her story that was, she wasn't letting me sleep at night, and I was distracted all the time. So I thought,
Wow.
you know what? If I sit down and I write her story, maybe it'll just get it out of me. So
Mm.
I wrote her first page, and I thought it was terrible, and I was embarrassed. Even though nobody was ever going to see this, I thought this is just awful. So I deleted it. But then I realized, the whole point of me doing this is to work through this and to get it out of me. So I gave myself
Mm.
permission to write her story. And I opened up my laptop again, and the words just started pouring. And I wrote and wrote and wrote. Every spare moment I had, I wrote her story. And after about 5 or 6 months, I had finished her story, and it was massively long. It was 228,000 words, which is like 2.5 times the length of a
Baby.
typical novel.
Wow.
so, So clearly it's on the shelf now. So if I'm going to get this out into the world one day, it needs some work to trim it down. But I wrote it for me. I did not write it for the masses. And it was extremely therapeutic. It helped me work through everything that was going on inside of me. And not only dealing with the situation that sort of propelled me to write her story, but I also started unpacking a lot of things that I had buried inside of me years previous, which I didn't even know about. So I came out of
Wow.
writing this novel, renewed and confident and a different person in a lot of ways.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. And I love that. I love how you took your personal experience and you created Karina.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, Karina became a widow, you know.
Yes.
And that's amazing. Your personal experiences drew that inspiration to create books. And I feel like that's the amazing part of writing, right? There's certain situations that happen that you could turn them around, write about them, but make a great story off of it. And I think that's
Exactly.
such a great ability. I have to say, Laura, that's pretty amazing that you did that.
Well, thank you.
Now, I want to definitely shift the conversation and talk about seeking Sasha. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
I just love the way that sounds because I feel like there's some theme going on there of identity, and I don't know
Yes.
why, but that title right there is bold. I don't know if it's because of Beyonce, Sasha Fierce, but it's something about it that's like seeking Sasha, and I could see like
Mm-hmm.
somebody snapping their fingers, like saying, "Mm-mm." I love it because your upcoming novel, Seeking Sasha, is going to follow a woman living off the grid. I mean, she's going to be carrying trauma, reinvention, and rules meant to protect her. And if you could give our listeners a little bit of a glimpse of what is the seed for Sasha's story, because was she born from a single moment compared to Karina, or did she slowly find you as well, Laura?
You know, her story found me in a hotel bar. So I was on
Baby!
a I was on a solo writing journey working on my big therapeutic massive novel. My husband had sent me away for a few days just to focus on this novel, and I went to the hotel bar one night to work on my novel. And as I'm sitting there, this man sits down next to me and he starts chatting me up. He asked my name and my job and what I was working on. And it dawned on me I could tell him anything about myself. I could make up a name, make up a career, and he would have no idea. Um, I told him the true things about myself, but just that spark of inspiration, it hit me, and I thought, you
I
know
don't
what?
think
It
we're
would be
recording.
so fun to create a character who does not share real things about herself. And so that's sort of where Sasha came from. And then her story just built from there.
Oh wow, that is awesome. That sounds very like compelling and how out of nowhere she came up to you. Like you're in a bar
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned? I love that. It just came up to you. Oh my God. And I feel like the theme of identity just runs so powerfully through this book. I don't know. I feel like, the mask we wear, the names we change, the truths we avoid. Why do
Mm-hmm.
you think so many of us just resonate with the idea of running from our past, even when it follows us? Like similar to Sasha. I mean, I don't want to give too much away of the book, but girl, there's a lot of like chasing past here.
Oh, for sure. There's been a number of times in my life where, life just gets busy and overwhelming. And my husband and I look at each other. We're like, you know what? Let's just like run away to the Caribbean or something. Let's just leave it all behind. And of course we don't. But I'm sure this is something that a lot of people could resonate with. Just get away from the busyness of life and just go do something totally different. So I thought
Yeah.
that would be a fun approach to a character and a way a character lives her life is this concept, but she actually does it, and she does it in a really terribly delicious way. Like her decisions are
Hmm.
not the best decisions necessarily, but it's what works for her, and
Yeah.
she constantly tries to reinvent herself as she escape attempts to escape her past and try to find where she's supposed to be in this world.
Mm, 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 mm. It says a lot. I mean, I'm looking forward to reading it already. Like I mentioned, I love the psychological aspect of a book and like the
Mm-hmm.
mystery. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not a romantic type of like, I'm just not into those type of
Yeah.
books, you know. I'm gonna make you laugh because I was like a big Twilight fan at first, and then I look back and I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? Not
Yeah.
saying that Stephanie Myers is not a good author, but I was just like, that's not my type of books now. So it's
Right.
like it's so funny. And I've read, Laura, that early reviews describe her books as psychologically tense and emotionally rich and just deeply human. And as an author who likes to write, with the feeling and the emotion that you do, let me ask you, how do you balance that suspenseful, but then again, vulnerability, keeping readers on the edge of their seat when they're reading these books? Like, how do you make that happen as an author?
You know what? It's not even a conscious thought necessarily. When I sit down to write, I often refer to it as my form of meditation because I have such a busy life and I'm constantly thinking. I have lists running through my head all the time. But when I open up my laptop and I start writing, everything sort of disappears and I could just focus on my characters and focus on my stories. And I start writing, and sometimes it's almost like I'm watching my fingers go across the keyboard and the story is coming out from within me. And, I have a loose outline, and so I know what's going to happen, but at the same time, the characters start writing the story themselves. So, in a lot of ways, there's not a specific way I can say that I balance, the softness with the tension. But then when I go back and do edits and revisions, I look for those spaces in dialogue. What is each character, what are they coming to the conversation with? And what are their needs in the conversation? And I try to play off each other. And and I really try to dive deep into the individual emotional state of each character and write from their perspective. And I don't like to give too much away, and that's where the tension
Yeah.
and the suspense comes from. Is I'll bring the readers right to the edge of what is happening, and then kind of punch them in the gut. So it's like, oh, you thought I was going to resolve this? Too bad. You have to read another chapter. So,
Oh my God, that is so funny.
yeah.
It's like a natural thing for you when you write. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
gift almost that you have the ability to write in such a manner, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Oh
It's
my
funny.
God.
Even when I was before I was novel writing, I just make a little. If I belonged in a club and we were doing a bake sale or something in university, and I'd make a poster to advertise the bake sale. Uh, People would say, "Oh, Laura, that poster is so perfect. The way you use the words to advertise we're selling cookies is beautiful." I've always heard these these funny little things along the way that I guess I have a way with words that people appreciate, and it's just, yeah, I'm really grateful that I've been given that gift. And it does take a lot of work. I've taken a lot of
I
writing
bet.
classes, and it takes a lot of practice, see what works in writing, see what doesn't. So I've grown my skills a lot over the years. But yeah, I did sort of come up with it with something inside of me too. So I'm very appreciative of that.
I love this already where this is going. And I have to ask for our listeners out there, what makes Seeking Sasha different than all the other characters? You mentioned Karina, but then again, you have other works out there, other characters as well. What makes Seeking Sasha, or what will make Seeking Sasha stand out more? And what makes you so excited about it that we can let our listeners know?
Oh, she is such a unique character because what Sasha has done is she's decided to create new identities to deal with different aspects of her life. So the true Sasha is, she's soft spoken and she's polite and she's very kind hearted. But if she finds herself in a situation where she needs to be a little more assertive, she'll tell herself, okay, you are Magda, you have to be Magda in this situation. And then she, in a sense, becomes this Magda person that she's she's pegged an identity on. And Magda allows Sasha to swear and to be a little bit rough around the edges and to tell people, if they need to go away, then she tells them not so politely to go away. And so Sasha has all these different personas that she's created, and she uses them in her life to allow herself to be who she wants to be. But she really has trouble accepting that all these people really are her. So she is a unique character in that way. She sort of divides up what she's able to do by naming them specific names.
She sounds like she don't take crap from nobody.
Yeah. Well, when she's Magda, she won't.
Yeah, like she is like, no, this is what I'm gonna do. This is how it's gonna be. Like, I love it. Like,
yeah,
she's on fire. It sounds like.
Yes.
Ooh. Oh my God. And I want to go back really quick and touch about the being a wildlife biologist. I just have to hint on that a little bit because I love how you incorporate nature too. I read many of your reviews, and a lot of people love your imaginary aspect in the writing, the forest, the gardens, the cabinet, and the movement that you portray in your books, like moving from different landscapes and all that. How did I'm trying to find the way how to ask you this, but how do you incorporate that biology aspect of it and that imagery and all that in your books?
I think a lot of it comes from the various communities I've lived in. I've lived in the mountains and in farm areas, in cities, in small towns, and so having so much experience living in these different areas, if I'm writing a particular setting, I can think back to my time in a similar setting, and I can draw from those experiences. And specifically, when I was doing more wildlife and garden type work, I had a job for a couple of years at a botanic garden. And even though I was not specifically a gardener there, I was doing research and a little bit with the tour programs and stuff. But I did spend a lot of time with gardeners, and I spent time in the gardens, and I helped them in the potting shed. And so a lot of those experiences I brought into Seeking Sasha, because Sasha is a gardener. Even though she bounces around and picks up odd jobs here and there, her heart is with planting and growing and watching plants thrive. So I've drawn on my experiences at the botanic garden to help build her world.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. I love that. She's a gardener and she plants, and that's so nice. I mean, I love that. I love this already. I definitely want to shift and move forward and talk about future projects because you're constantly creating great stories, short stories, always seeking to get a better writing out there. You have future projects in the works. I mean, The Jackal, Dasha, Skies Overlay, Logan, and all exploring various difference of emotional states and emotional spaces for these individuals. What themes seem to be calling you back as a writer? Like, what would you say with your upcoming projects and all these great things you have going? What keeps you calling and bringing more stories like this out?
I've always been interested in the deep inner workings of people, the psychology, the emotional states of people. And so with whatever I write, I really find myself going back to the inner workings of what drives people to make the decisions they do. What are they showing the world versus what is the story that they're holding tightly inside of them? And then how do they balance their outward appearance to the world with their inner turmoil or inner whatever is happening with them. So I find myself, whether sometimes I consciously think of it and sometimes it naturally flows into my writing, to really dive deep into the emotions and the psychology of characters. Those are the biggest themes in my works.
And for readers that are discovering you through Seeking Sasha, maybe this is the first book that they're going to pick up. What do you hope they walk away from? If they didn't take away anything from our conversation, when they close that final page, what would you like them to know? What is the major takeaway there?
Well, mostly entertainment. I think it's a great book. It has a lot of suspense and page-turning qualities. And so to finish the book and say, wow, that was a really great book. I want to, give this book to my friends, my family. That's the number one takeaway. But on the deeper levels, because Sasha has such a unique lifestyle and so many layers, the book opens up the opportunity for book club discussions. And Sasha challenges societal expectations because she lives a very different type of life. She doesn't have credit cards. She doesn't have a phone. But she does everything within the law. She just does it differently. And, some of society might raise an eyebrow at her lifestyle, but it works for her. So, and then she does have some mental health challenges with anxiety and panic attacks. And so because there's so many layers to Sasha's character and layers within the story, and then the dynamic between Sasha and Cole, her best friend from childhood, who she reunites with, and how they work together to, try to rebuild their friendship. There's just so much opportunity for discussions. So I think a lot of readers will come away from this book and just wanting to talk about it and to unpack some of the layers of who Sasha is.
Laura, it sounds like an amazing book. And when does Seeking Sasha drop again? Tell us the date, because we're anticipating.
It releases on February 10th, 2026. And pre-orders are available already. I have a link to all places where you can pre-order the book on my website. And my website is laurafrostwrites.com. So it's Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, lots of other places.
Oh, thank you, Laura. Laura, as we coming to a closure here, I want to thank you so much for sharing your voice, your imagination, and this kind of storytelling that not a lot of people have this gift that you do. I mean, your voice, your books, and everything. I just want to thank you so much for giving us a breath of fresh air. So, before we wrap up, you had mentioned that your book drops, Seeking Sasha, to our listeners February 10th, and she is taking pre orders. But can you once again tell our listeners your site where they could find you so they could follow and continue to follow your journey?
It's laurafrostwrites.com. And I have a newsletter, so listeners can sign up for my newsletter to get early news and sort of an insider's peek to what I do. And I also have a list of all my social media accounts at the bottom of my website. And so you can follow me on all my different socials.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting us know. And I have to say, your website is beautiful. I went in
Thank
there.
you.
Yes, I did. I love the colors. Very, very nice, I have to say.
Thank you.
Before we say goodbye here and end this beautiful conversation, can you leave us with one little piece of mantra or a quote that you live by? Just so that can stay in our ear.
Oh my goodness, what a question.
Or something that you live by.
Yeah, you know what? I have my little writing corner in my writing office, and my wall has quotes all over it because I really love quotes. So it's hard to pick just one. But one that I'm looking at right now that I think really resonates is, sometimes when things are falling apart, they may actually be falling into place.
That's deep. That's deep. But you know what? A lot of us can relate to that. I love that.
Yes.
Say it again. Say it again.
Sometimes when things are falling apart, they may actually be falling into place.
I love that. That definitely is going to have a little buzz in a lot of our listeners' ears. I know to me, it did something to me.
Yes.
I'm telling you right now.
There's a reason why it's on my quote wall.
I love it. Well, Laura, thank you so much again for joining and creating such a beautiful conversation and space with us. Really, really appreciate you having, us here. So
thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, thank you. And to my listeners out there, mi gente bonita, if you enjoyed this conversation, you know you did. I know you did. Come on now. Please don't forget to subscribe, download, listen, and share this episode with someone who loves a good story and a deeper conversation. go ahead and expand your minds. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave your girl a rating and a review. It truly continues to help grow this wonderful podcast and have great conversations, such as authors like Laura Frost, and just really dive into great conversations. Thank you so much for showing up again on this Friday, this week. As always, con mucho amor, this has been Conversations with Iris. Thank you. Much love.